Yeah, we go back and forth on that. I don't know if Robert Patrick is going to be. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to go. Not a big Twilight fan. So anyway, welcome Warriors. Hope you're having a great week. This is our final session. A good quote here from the movie They Live, long time ago. Rowdy Roddy Piper. I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. And that's where we're at today, getting ready for finals week. So here's where we are. We're going to take a class photo here in a second, but we're going to spend today doing our last final prep for our exam next week and then closing out the course. Tomorrow, I will post your class interaction and participation assessments, and then I'll talk about reading day reps in a second. Final exam, that's what we're going to spend today talking about. So there's plenty to talk about there. Okay, tomorrow, reading day reps. Everything in gray on the right is what I've already got booked. So if you would like to have time with me one-on-one on Zoom, going over problems, going on areas that are giving you problems, then just let me know. Just email me. There's no place on Canvas or Spartan Success or anything to sign up. Just send me an email. Tell me what you want to do, and we'll make it work. Don't be confined by this either. I have some folks that are taking an hour. So if you really want to get in there, let me know, and we'll figure out a way to get you in there. Okay. Um, so there's that. Here's what we're going to do today. I'm already recording here in a second. We're going to take a class photo. I'll give you a heads up of how that's going to happen. I'm just going to screenshot my Zoom screen. So I'll give you a heads up and kind of a 1, 2, 3 count before we do that. I won't just do that blindly. And then I'll post that class photo both on Canvas and my Instagram so that you've got it. So that 20 years from now, you can go, I remember that guy, or I remember that girl that I used to sit next to and do U drives together and all that good stuff. Then we're going to go into the final exam structure. I'll give you a hit list, and then we'll get into prep. We got a few problems. Time permitting, I have a short little Kahoot that we could do, about 15 questions, some extra credit on the line, and then I'll close things out. All right. Any questions before we begin, big or small? Okay. So, first things first, we're going to do our class photo. So, if you would like to participate in the class photo and you have the ability to show your beautiful face, then this would be the time to do it. And let me just get my little screenshot thing ready. All right. So, class photo coming up. 1, 2, 3. All right. Outstanding. Like I said, I'll put that on Instagram and Canvas later on today for the memories. Okay. Moving right along. All right. Final exam basics. Top to bottom. It will be next Thursday. So earlier than this time, and I do want you to take note of that. Our official YCP exam time is 8 to 10. Um, but I'm going to go ahead and post it early. I really don't, personally, I don't set out to make it so you have to spend 2.5 hours doing it. I give you that extra time just to deal with upload, download, Wi-Fi, Murphy's Law, that kind of thing. But, to each his own. That's me. It may take you that long to do it. I don't set out to make it that long for you. Still I'm working it, so I don't have it written time now. And I think it'll be no less than 100, 105 points and no more than 120. It's not going to be like 150 or anything like that. It'll be accessible on Canvas, both through Canvas assignments and through the Canvas page. So either way, whether you go to the assignments section or you punch into the Thursday, 14 May page, you'll be able to access it either way. It'll come to you in an Excel packet like it has before. And so you can download that, work in Excel. And as far as access to me, it'll be the same way we've done in the past. So either through email or phone. I don't think last time anybody called me, but whatever works. I'm not going to be available on Zoom. I'm not going to be standing by on Zoom, but regardless, I will be standing here at my computer. I'm not going to be down at Giant or wherever, downstairs doing something else. I'll be sitting right here, poking around with other things. But bottom line is, if I was sitting in the classroom with you while you're taking the exam, you're looking at about 3 to 5 problems. Not included in that 3 to 5 is you're going to have a true false section on what would Ono say. So you'll be given a statement and you'll have to evaluate that statement and decide, is that something Ono would say? And in that case, it would be O, or if that's something he would not say and he would be against. And in that case, you would say no. And then you'll have a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of multiple choice, like 2 to 4 questions. Really pretty low threat section, in my opinion. Now, just, you all are warriors. You were warriors before this class. You're even more so into the warrior ethic now. Just stay away from the dark side. And what I mean there is that if you have some sort of temptation to take someone else's test packet and send it in as yours, or do the opposite, meaning someone asks you for their test packet and you feel prompted to send it to them, just reserve your spot, keep your spot in Valhalla. Valhalla is where all warriors go when they die, and we can be up there and drink beer and tell war stories. If you go to the dark side, it's just not going to roll that way. I have ways of seeing these things, of when people do this. And just if you feel like you're in a position where you need to do that, then let's talk about that. Let's see what we can do before you feel the need to do that. Because once you do that, I have less options, and we have less options of what we can do beyond that. So I'll just leave it at that.
Are you an AC fan?
Um, I don't know what that is, but I
Assassin's
guess I know.
Creed.
What's
Because
that? Oh, now I just thought it was a cool picture. So, all right. I'm not really a Pat Benatar fan either, but I like this song. So here's what you're looking at on the exam. Here's what we're looking at. We talked before, is this a comprehensive exam? This is what we're looking at. That's the bottom line. So I guess the answer is no. We're looking at the 6-pack section. That's determining inventory under uncertainty. We're looking at the work we did on materials requirements planning, MRP. We're looking at the work we did on statistical process control. And then finally, conceptual on TQM and lean. Okay, so I have, I don't know, 9 or so slides and a couple problems that we're going to work through. Some of this is just kind of review. Some of it, we're going to get our hands dirty a little bit. So here we go. So on determining inventory under uncertainty, this was the video that we did. It was kind of standalone, and then you all worked some Pearson stuff. So, and I'm not going to go over all those formulas today. The bottom line is you've got to be adept at recognizing the situation. All right. So you've got to identify what's varied. You've got to be able to look at a narrative and see, okay, is demand varied? Is lead time varied? Or is both? Now, a technique in that is if you see in the narrative where something is addressed as having an average, so the average demand is 500 per day, then you should be reaching for a standard deviation to go with that. If something is average, that means it is varied. If it has an average, that means it has variation to it. And that means it's variable. If it says demand is 500 per day, then you shouldn't be reaching for a standard deviation because that implies that that 500 is constant, meaning that every day, day in, day out, demand is 500. Again, not so realistic to me in most situations, but I'm sure there are situations where that is realistic. So develop the ability to see a narrative and then frame it accordingly. And then the formula is just a follow through. So once you say, oh, this is demand varied, lead time varied, you would grab that appropriate formula. And then the last thing I have to say here is just take your time. I had some warriors last semester. Um, they called the formula that goes behind the situation for both variable demand and variable lead time. They called it like the babushka or something like that because it's so long. It has all that stuff under the square root. And really, that's another way, in my opinion, of saying just take your time. Just take your time, make sure that you get everything put into that formula the right way, and that, you segregate that out and, you know, so that you don't make a simple error. Okay. But for the most part, I think this section, the six pack kind of thing, is relatively straightforward. All right. So that's really all I've got to cover on that. Moving on to material requirements planning. These are really the three things that I would like you to focus on for the exam. Now, going into this, I understand that. So the work that I had you do on the Super B, and I think it's valuable. Nothing that I have to say has anything to do with my beliefs about its value. But I do empathize and understand that under test conditions, doing ERP work it is probably not appropriate under exam conditions, lengthy ERP work, because it's very tedious and it's very open to simple kind of mistakes. So I've kind of scoped this a little bit, and I'll show you kind of what you should expect on the exam and then what you don't need to worry about. You don't need to worry about some lengthy MRP thing that looked like the MRP piece on Super B with like 3 or 4 levels of components. But you will see something like that. It'll be scoped down. So we're going to work through one of those today. So let's kind of break this down a little bit. Let's talk about bill of materials to determine gross requirements. So here we're talking about taking something like this and determining components. So we're going to work this together up on the screen. And just this morning, I decided that I was thinking about what's an easier way that we can do this. And, I don't necessarily have that hard and fast answer. But what I thought about was you just kind of go through and do this where it is, and then you can add it up later. Okay. So here's what I mean. If we're making 500 of X, then, and each one of these numbers in parentheses represents a component, the amount of components. All right. And we can see here that E occurs a couple times. D occurs down here. Then it also occurs up here. So when we total these up over here, we got to be kind of careful. So one technique I thought was let's just go through the first time and do the numbers where they are. And then we'll go through a second time and sort them out over here. Okay. So for the level 1 numbers, this is level 0. This is the end item, whether it's a motorcycle or microwave, whatever. This is level 1. So all we have to do here, if level 0 is 500, all we have to do here is multiply that 500 by whatever our component requirement is. And we're just going to put that number where it is. So 500 times 2 is 1,000. 500 times 3 is 1,500. Okay. And then we're kind of going to forget about that 500. All right. When we move down to this level, we're just going to worry about that 1000. Okay. Because that's all it's dependent on. So when we go here to this D, that's going to be 2000. When we go here to this E, that's going to be 3000. We go here to this E, that's going to be 3000. Or excuse me, that's going to be 4500. Sorry about that. Now that I am doing this, I'm just going to put a little thing there. All right, back on track. So I'm working this E right now. This can be 4,500 because all I'm doing is taking that number times 3. And then this is going to be 1,500 times 2, which is 3,000. Okay. And then I'm going to go down and do these dudes. I don't have anything to do over here. And again, now I'm just looking at that number there, 3,000 and 3,000 times 2, which is 6,000. Okay, I'm not in the end zone yet, but at least I have the math done. Okay, so that's my first pass. And again, I'm not saying you have to do it this way. I'm just saying, is there an easier way that we can be bulletproof and not make errors? So what we're going to do over here is we're going to add all that up. And so we're going to start with X. We already have that. X is 500. That doesn't change. And then we'll go to B. Now, if we want to, we could kind of do a left side, right side thing. And then we'd need a total. So I maybe put that number, that line over a little too far. All right, let's try how this works. Nice straight line. Beautiful. Okay, so for B, my left side's going to be 1,000, and I don't have any on the right side. There's no B over here. There's just that 1,000. So I'm going to slap that 1,000 over here, and then my total is going to be 1,000 for B. Okay, cool. And then I'm going to go on to my C. All right, C on the left side. I don't have any C on the left side, so I'm just going to put a little line there. And I have C right here. I don't have any more C, so that's 1,500. So my total for C is 1,500. Okay, cool. Let's move on to D. Let's see, D, here we go. On the left side, I have 2,000. On the right side, got 6,000. So my total is going to be 8,000 for D. Okay, cool. Moving on to E. I have E right here, 3,000. And I go over to my right side. I have E right here, 4,500. Boom, 75. Hondo. And I have 2 more to do. I have F and G. I'm just going to do that right there. No F over here. I have that 3,000 there. And then what do I have for G? I have no G over here. And then I have 3,000 here. I don't have G anywhere else. So those are my totals for component requirements if I'm making 500x. So if I'm making 500 microwaves, I don't know why I have microwaves on the mind today. Then I would need these components. Okay, these totals right here. Okay. I don't I don't necessarily need to say where they are, where they're going. On this kind of stuff, I'm determining gross requirements. Okay. So that is a way that, you know, if you don't need it, don't use it. I'm not offended by it. If I ask you a question like this and you give me a column that looks like this with these over here, it doesn't matter to me. If you want to show your work, which I always encourage people to do, just in case one of these turns out to be, not the number that I'm looking for, then this would probably be a good thing to do. And then it would be easy for me to assess partial credit because I could see where you made a computational error. If you just give me this and it's wrong, then we kind of run the risk of I'm not really sure how you came up with that. But again, the bottom line is whatever works for you. When I thought about this morning, after looking at some of the Super B submissions, I thought there's got to be an easier way that we can just work ourselves into an error-free method as opposed to something else. Okay. Any questions on this? Okay. We'll move on and talk about using bill of materials and lead times to establish requirements. So I apologize. I didn't get this onto Canvas today. Before class, I was too busy making sure I had the right Batman clips to upload. All right. And we're just going to work our way through this. Let's see if we can get a little closer. So something like this, I think, we only have one requirement we're going to work. I think something like this, you should expect to see on the final. Okay. Not too cumbersome. And we're just going to work this start to finish. So we have 50 that are due of A right there. Okay. So we're just going to start with F. Okay. And so we have our lead times down here. All right. And so if the lead time to build A essentially is 2 weeks, then we need to start everything back here in this week 5 column. All right. Because we'll need all those components, F, Y, and G. We'll need all them together and then to work with them for 2 weeks in order to have A ready. So Kyle, why don't you start us out? Let's start with F. If this is where we need to start, then what is the quantity that needs to go in my box here?
10.
Okay, so don't confuse lead
Or
times.
that was lead time.
Yeah, these are our lead times.
So you'd need 250 then.
Yeah, good. All right. So we need 250 there, and we're going to have 250 down here. And then with B or F, we want to look at our lead times. So let's see. Luke, where would my next box go in terms of when that F should come in? When does that F need to be released from somebody in order to make this 250 right here?
3.
Okay. So right here.
Yeah, because it's two blocks away.
Okay, good. All right, super. So the next one we're going to do is Y. So we're just going to work our level 1 left to right. And we need Y at the same time. So that would put us here because, again, we need F, Y, and G, all those required components. We need those in week 5. So if that is the case, then Tim, what should go in my box here where I'm at for Y? Gilbert, what do you think? Gilbert, you out there? Okay, Josh, what do you think?
Be 150.
Yep. So we're going to put 150 because we have that requirement of 3 Ys for every A. And we're going to drop 150 here. And Allie, where does that 150 need to be released from?
The lead time is 1, so you would just go over like 1 column.
Okay. So right there?
Yeah.
All right, super. Okay, and then we'll just finish this level. We'll go to G. And since we're on G, right here, so Gary, since we're on G, let's shrink this down just a tiny bit.
I knew you were going to do that.
It's so corny, I know, right? It's like a boomer thing to do. I just had to do it. Okay. So what number would go there, Gary?
So it's G. Need 1 for every. Can you scroll up so I can see what's above it really quick? Or is it okay? So it is just A. So you need 50 of them.
Okay, super. And we're just going to go down here and 50. And then, Cody, where do we go for, where does that 50 need to be released?
Sorry, I was muted. 1 over to the left, so column 4.
Okay, super. All right. So that takes us through level 1. All right. Now let's go down here. And all we need to do level 2 is synchronize with F. So we're going to go right here. And when we go right there, we're going to drop down and do Y. Okay. So Ethan Green, what number should go for Y when we're doing this final level 2?
$500.
Okay, that's correct because we need 2 Ys down here for every F. So we're going to put 500 there. We'll put that 500 here. And let's see. Ames, what do you think? Where does that 500 need to be released from?
1 over to the left, so column 2.
Okay. All right, super. So we just plotted that in there. We didn't have any overlap, which was good. Nice and clean. And then we have Z that's all by itself. We're just going to drop down off our screen. And because that is 250 there, this is going to be 250 down here. And we can just scroll on down because we don't need anything else. The only thing we need is Z's lead time. So we would just go down here and go over 2. And if we wanted to color those in, we could. Okay. Any questions on what we just did? Okay. So something like that, maybe even smaller. I don't think it wouldn't get any bigger in terms of complexity. Like I wouldn't have any more levels or anything like that. Something like that of that magnitude, I would, you should expect to see something like that on the exam. I think the bottom line is, number 1, take your time. I know that's easy for me to say. Number 2, separate and get in your mind which numbers to use where. These are all lead times. These are all component requirements. So you don't, church and state, you don't want to confuse the two depending on what you're doing. Okay. And there's probably an easier way to make yourself bulletproof. I haven't really thought about how to do that with making it more complicated than it is. Okay. So that's that. I will, once we're done today, I'll upload both the work we did here as well as the empty shell. So if you missed part of the discussion or you want to work it again, you can do that. So those will be available for you on Canvas. Okay, moving right along. We'll get into statistical process control, purpose, concepts, and philosophy. So I think we're going to have the time to do the Kahoot. The Kahoot will run through a lot of the conceptual part. Why do we do statistical process control? What are the basics behind it? But those you should know. Let's just talk about a few things. So the reason we do statistical process control is we want to establish a mechanism that gives us a signal to detect inconsistent performance. And I think the key here is to kind of put aside terms like bad and good. We initially want to begin with the idea of inconsistency. Because in operations, we want consistency. We want consistent performance. We want that pitcher to pitch the same way at the same speed. Generally, when we expect that pitcher to pitch a fastball, we want to know how fast that ball is going to be. We don't want a whole lot of inconsistency there. When we want to produce phones, we want each phone to perform relatively the same way. We want to have the same processing speed, those kind of things. So that signal helps us identify a process that is potentially out of control and inconsistent, and so we can get it back to behaving the way we want it to be. That third bullet, when something is out of control, we call that assignable variation. Again, if I was king for a day, I would choose another term because it doesn't really cue you to what this is all about. I would probably say unexpected variation, but hey, I'm not king, obviously. So just know that assignable variation is not normal. Normal variation, we're going to have it. The pitcher one day is going to throw 90 miles an hour. Another day is going to throw 87. Another day is going to throw 92. But when the pitcher starts throwing 72 miles an hour, then that's assignable variation. That is not normal. Okay. Ideally, we would like performance to be the same way every time, but that's just not reality. But it's when we have that assignable variation that when we want to get our fingers into the problem. And we'll talk much more about that. And then understand how to what potential sources of assignable variation may be. And to me, that's where the fishbone comes in. Rather than just, having a haystack of things we might think about, the fishbone helps us narrow down the haystack and helps us group categories of problems so that we can really get to that needle pretty quickly. We'll talk some more about that. So first, when you're producing your control charts, both in the real world, beyond our time together, and on the exam, I want you to think about these points of performance, okay? And since it's an open book, open exam, then theoretically you could have the slide as kind of your cheat sheet right there as you construct a control chart. And then you could evaluate, does my control chart have all these things in it? So did I establish a clear center line? And our center line, I haven't used that term much with you all, but that's either my X bar, that's my R, that's my P, or that's my C. Okay, and I want to have that. It doesn't necessarily have to be dotted, but when someone else looks at it, they should be able to go, aha, I can tell that's the center of the control chart. We talked about dispersion. And what I mean is about that y-axis. So when you have a line that's all scrunched in together and we can't really tell the variation between the points and the average, that doesn't really tell the story that we want to tell, either both to ourselves or to others. So like we did that one day, Ethan Locker spotted it. He said, well, the first thing I would do is adjust the y-axis. I would open the aperture so that I could have that dispersion and see what's going on. Another thing we want to do is make sure we've connected our points. That just kind of helps the logic flow. We also, just like our center line clear, we want to have our upper control limit and our lower control limit clear and distinct. So it pops out. Again, just like a meme, or back in my day, a cartoon, that kind of thing. It doesn't have to be green and red. That's up to you. But the point is so that we can tell what's going on. And then we want to identify both those out of control days, like here on this example, and the lower limit. It may be in the upper limit. It's not always necessary in the lower limit. Those are days that we're out of control. And then definitely where the system is out of control. And for the purpose of this class, the scope of this class, we've said that 3 consecutive points above or below. And for the sake of the exam, just to be simple, if something is out of control, it will look like either this or it'll be down here. So we want to make that call out when we construct our control charts. And we both want to do that for the exam in the real world. We don't want someone we're briefing to have to guess and do work. We want to make it simple for them. And I put this graphic here, this little pretty package. I want to make this nice little pretty package. Boom. It's nice. It's pretty. We could overdo this. I'm not interested in you overdoing it. I'm not interested in you producing like a 3D hologram of Princess Leia that like pops out of the chart. The point is, let's get these points of performance there so that we can tell what's going on and really set the stage for analysis. Now let's talk about analysis. So you should expect to do some interpretation of what the control chart means. You should expect me to ask you that. And you should be ready to deliver the goods. Okay, so let's just start. Again, we kind of think back about the purpose of the control chart. And the purpose of the control chart is assuming our process follows a normal distribution, which most of the time, even with sampling, it will. We have that normal distribution on its side. So when points are out of control, that means they're a lot farther away from either the mean or the proportion than we're used to. It doesn't necessarily mean we have bad performance. This is a C chart, so these are complaints. So here we have less complaints than we normally do. And in this context, we might say, well, wow, if we had less complaints, what were we doing on those days that we want to sustain? What was going well? Why did we get less complaints on those days? Another key term there, both in this course and in reality, is we want to monitor and reflect. But we don't necessarily need to stop the process, okay? Both in a good situation or in a preferred situation and in a non-preferred situation. So, you might walk away from this class mistakenly thinking every time I see something out of control, a single day, I'm going to stop the process. Well, if you lead like that, in reality, folks are going to call you a knee-jerk kind of micromanager, okay? I would more approach it, again, with those words, monitor and reflect, kind of, I wonder what's going on. Does this trend continue? That kind of thing. Now, in contrast, we have this situation going on. And when we have something like this, conceptually, that means the mean has shifted or slipped. All right. So in this case, we have all of a sudden we're getting a lot of complaints. And that means that really in reality, this dotted line is no longer there. It's much higher. It's probably up here around, I don't know, 15, 17. And we may have so it's kind of like, what the heck is going on? In that case, in reality, if that was really happening, it's the old phrase, stop the press. Stop production. Stop what we're doing. Do not continue. Okay. We need to see what's going on. And we could have, if we have a lot of complaints, maybe we have a new employee that we haven't trained very well, who doesn't know how to deal with customers, who doesn't know how to do the processes. Maybe we have a machine that's slipped gears. And literally that's caused the mean to slip. Okay. We have a fan belt that's broken or something. And so this machine has kind of gone awry. Now, once we kind of label this situation, that's where, in my opinion, the fishbone is just a great tool to pull off the shelf and help us investigate what's up, because it just, we can immediately go, okay, 6 M's, bro. Do we have a machine problem? Do we have a method problem? Do we have a material problem? Do we have a personnel problem? Do we have a measurement problem, et cetera, et cetera? Do we have an environmental problem? And like Kyle pointed out the other day, the point of the fishbone is not to say, here's every single thing that could go wrong. And I have seen that. I've seen that in just many, many cases where, whether it's myself or someone else feels prompted to say, what is the problem we're trying to solve? So the point of the fishbone is to identify the leading things that could cause something to go wrong. Okay. And that's really where the professionals come in. Amateurs, they can search everything. But the problem with that is we don't have the time to search everything, and it's just not practical. So what the fishbone does is it takes all the things that could go wrong, kind of puts them into a pot, boils it on high, and then you dump that into a pan and sift it out. And you get like maybe 6, 7, 8 things. And you take those 8 things and categorize them into 6. And that doesn't mean that it's always going to be one of those things in the pot, but that's the place to begin. Okay. And then if it's none of those things, either your analysis was kind of off, or maybe it's some kind of weird outlier kind of thing. But that's the connection on the fishbone. Of course, you could do the fishbone before you ever began the process. And that's why the fishbone, you can get a lot of mileage out of it. But the bottom line is, at this point, I encourage you to be ready to interpret. And you don't, when we talk about interpret, it's not like you have to write a dissertation or be like Socrates. It's really just, what could be causing this right here? Teresa had a great example. It could be the end of the shift. People could be tired. You could have a new crew coming on board. Depending on the problem, these are all really relevant examples, and very relevant in terms of they happen probably more than we would like. All right. And then we've talked about the fishbone quite a bit. So when I say TQM, just to scope your focus and your prep for next week, if you see something on the exam, it's going to have to do with the fishbone. Okay. I'm not really going to ask you questions. Not really. I'm not going to ask you questions about the other 6 tools, because I think the fishbone really ties in well with what we've covered recently on the control chart. Okay. And again, I think the key word here is critical contributors to success or failure. Not every contributor, the critical ones. Okay. And you all have examples of this. 3 of you did your Way of the Warrior project on home runs. And, there's things that contribute to home runs, and some of them contribute more than others. It's the same kind of thing. Okay. So it's, that's that. Okay. And then finally, about to wrap it up before we get on to some Kahoot, things to understand about Ono and Lean. So I just ran out of time. I know, full of excuses today, but the bottom line, I want to put a picture of a clock in here in the middle. I was having some internet problems. But think of the clock simulation work that we did. I know it was a while ago. All right. But Ono is all about eliminating waste. So anything that can contribute to waste, redundancy, overwork, overproduction, unnecessary transportation, unnecessary movement, unnecessary inspection, anything that really could be reduced. The kitting station, I think it was Cody who identified, hey, we don't really need a kitting station. We could just place the inventory where people need it, and then they can pull it and use it. And I think one of the other groups came to that conclusion as well. We've talked about pulling items into production. We don't want to just push stuff in. And then we've got Kylie who's in the middle, or whoever's in the middle who has limited capacity. And then we just have a buildup of work. All this contributes to waste. In that situation, it contributes to errors. Errors are waste because we have to do something again with them. So Ono was against all of that. I have highlighted here how we figure out how to determine profit. Again, with Ono, he said, hey, again, in this context, it's important to understand what price is and what cost is. Cost is what it costs us internally to produce an item. So if we produce microwaves, if it costs us $40 to produce a microwave, that's what cost is. If I sell that microwave to Ellie at a price of 60, that is what price is. Okay, so let's say I'm a microwave manufacturer. Ellie is a retailer. She purchases microwaves from me. I charge her $60 for the microwave. That is price, what I'm charging her. Ono would say, you need to fix that price that you charge Ellie. Okay, so if you charge Ellie 60 today, you charge her 60 tomorrow. You charge her 60 next week. What if my costs go up? Ono would say, too bad. You still charge Ellie $60. Well, what if my costs go up to 80? Ono would say, well, you have one of two choices. You're either going to lose $20 because that would be 60 minus 80, or you need to figure out how to reduce waste. And I would say to Ono, well, I don't have any waste. And he would say, watch me, hold my beer. I'll show you where you got waste. He'd walk down the production floor. He'd go, you got 5 drills over here. Why do you need 5 drills? Well, just in case the first one breaks. He'd say, okay, get rid of those. He would say, this guy's taking all this time to do this one thing. Why is he doing that? Why are his tools way over there and his workbench is here? And I'd go, well, that's the way we've always done it. He'd go, bull crap, dude. Choose that over here, increase production. And pretty soon, Ono would have me making a profit again. Okay? So, know your Ono. This is a classic slide. If I had unlimited money, I'd make that into a sticker and kind of have it be an Ops Warrior bonus package kind of thing. But Ono, I don't know if he ever really said that. He's been quoted as inventory is evil. But I think his point was, if you have inventory that's high and you don't monitor that inventory, that hides potentially all of these problems, because you're always solving your problem with some sort of inventory, whether it's be raw materials inventory or finished goods. And I've seen some examples of this where it just didn't make sense why people had so much inventory. And I won't name the company. I visited a company in October in the York area. They had production really, down to a T. I don't know if they had it in terms of lean down to a T, but they really had it going on. But when it came to their inventory management, it was almost like they didn't manage inventory, and they had a lot of inventory on hand. It just didn't make sense to me why they did. Especially because they had production, really, really moving efficiently. So, that it wasn't, again, Ono, it wasn't like he said, hey, have no inventory. But I think his idea was that if you're not matching inventory with production, then your inventory could be unnecessarily high and could be letting you off the hook. It's kind of the same way of having the 5 drills. You don't need the 5 drills. You only need one. When that first one breaks or fails on you and you use the second one, you're just letting yourself off the hook. What you should do is fix the first one. And so his idea was, when you solve a problem out of inventory and not the production or the piece of the supply chain that's causing it, you're never going to solve your problem, that kind of thing. So again, just to close, when it comes to lean, and this will be about 10 little mini questions, just one section. Think about true or false. If it was true, then you'd mark O. If it doesn't match with a lean kind of mindset and approach, you would say no. Okay? So any questions on what we've covered? All right. I can't remember if we played Kahoot in this class. So we're going to play a little Kahoot real quick. So what you want to do is, if you've got another device, I don't know how you could play on a computer. I guess you could while you're watching. You want to get your other device out. And there's our code. And I can't even read that. So once you get logged in, you want to log in with a name that I can read and recognize, because the first place, the winner will get 5 points extra credit. The second place winner will get 4, and the third will get 3. So this little kind of whatever it is, Arabic, yeah, that doesn't help me. Something like Hags, yeah, I know who that is. All right. I think my music is muted. Maybe not. I don't like the music anyway. All right. And for time purposes, I'm going to move these questions through a little bit faster, probably at about starting out 40 seconds and then dropping down to as low as 20. Okay. So you know the name of the game. You need to go with an answer quickly. And the quicker you answer, if you get it right, especially, can contribute to the more points that you receive. So we'll go ahead and get started. All right. Heck yeah, we're ready. Let's do this. All right, good. Remember, it's to get that signal that tells us whether something is consistency. We don't want to start out initially with good and bad, because we might have it. We just don't want to start out that way. And then engineering specs is something entirely different. So let's see where we're at. All right, Myra drawn first blood. All right, here we go. What's missing from this control chart? All right, good. Everything. Really not a very good control chart at all. All right, some movement.
What's the game pin?
The game pin is, I don't know what the game pin is. Game pin's there at the bottom, Kyle. 897746. Okay, remember, and we didn't highlight, or I didn't highlight this in the highlights, but when we have a negative LCL, there's just no such thing. It defaults to 0. Cody. All right. Good job, Ethan. Here we go. Okay, real quick. Oh or no, just grab one. What would you say about this? Okay, a little more divided than I would like. I think what Ono would say is, why is the supplier irregular? This is an example of masking the problem. Okay, so he wouldn't be a fan of doing this at all. He'd say, why is the supplier irregular? What's the problem with the supplier? Do they not understand our needs? Have we not, paid them enough? What's the issue? Are we not close enough? Those kind of things. All right. Good job, Ethan.
I lost connection to Kahoot.
Yeah, so did I.
Everybody?
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of a bummer.
That's really weird.
Restart.
Yeah. Can I do that? Let's see here. All right. Let's speed this up. Be a good review since we've seen these. So you got to be quick on the trigger. All right. I'm only going to give you like 15 to 20 seconds for these first ones because we've done them. So get your answer in there fast. There we go. All right. Good. Right. Okay, I think we're getting back to where we were. Here's where we were. All right, gonna give you about 20 seconds, so move quick. All right, central tendency is what it's all about. X and the mean is all about central tendency. I don't think Myra's been dethroned yet. Good job, Myra. Now my internet connection is unstable. Awesome. Talking about Murphy. All right. To count the number of rows in a data set, remember the number of samples. So that's not sample size. So if we have 20 rows, that is a way to how many samples are we looking at? All right. Performance consistency. Consistency is the key word. Get your answer in quick. All right, this is a tough question. The bottom line is the R chart looks at consistency because it looks at variation, but an R chart's not an answer by its own. And so it is when we get an X with it. It's kind of like a package deal. All right. I don't think anybody moved off of that one. Okay, another oh no. Produce in large batches. What would he say? All right, so I had cookies up there because a lot of times we make a lot of cookies, we eat more than we want to. So it's kind of wasteful kind of thing. So Ono would say only make as many cookies as you need kind of thing. All right, Myra got the hot hand. All right, normal versus out of the ordinary. If we start with a good versus bad, that's probably, we could probably do better than that. Okay, deciding between a P and C chart. Okay, P and C. P is our sampling situation. So if there's no sample size involved, it's kind of like arrivals into a system. These are just coming in. Complaints are just coming in. That's a C chart. Negative comments on social media are coming in. It's a C chart. Gary taking the top spot. All right. All right, a little more across the playing field than I would like. Our chart is all about dispersion. Dispersion is variation, okay? So X is central tendency, R is dispersion in a process. All right. What causes the process to be out of control? All right. Weather is an example of assignable variation, but really assignable variation is our best answer. And the rest of these, natural variation is actually the opposite of assignable variation. Natural variation doesn't cause a process to be out of control. It's the stuff that is not natural, that is not normal. Gary got the hot hand. Okay, and those normal differences, those aren't assignable variation. That's normal variation. All right, good. All right, fighting for those last 3 top spots. See how it's going to go down. What would Ono say? This is the toughest Ono question all day. So think but move fast. Yeah, so this is a tough one. You'd think that the organizing would be kind of a 5S kind of thing, but actually Ono would say, why do we have scrap metal in the first place? We got to reduce that. Scrap metal is wasteful. It shows that there's variation in the process. It's all about controlling variation and reducing variation. So that's a tough one. You won't see that one again. I'll just tell you. All right, Kyle, good job. Last couple questions. 2 more, this one and 1 more. Which is not one of the 6 M's on the fishbone? All right, good job. Murphy's Law, not on there. Maybe should be, but we can't control Murphy's Law. That's one of those things. All right, last question. Gary's defending the top spot. Will he come through? Will Kyle reach up and get him? Will Myra take the top spot again? I don't know. We'll see. You folks, yeah, we do have a final exam. All right, so let's see how we came out. Kyle, 3rd place, coming from behind like Ags. Who's it gonna be? Gary. To our runner-ups, Myra and Jasmine. Good job to everyone. Okay, so I will post the link to that on Canvas after we're done so that you can. Where's my little outro? Hang on. We got one more thing to do. I just got to pull it up. So I'll post the Kahoot so you can play it again if you want to. You can review it or not. But either way, and I'll make sure those extra credit points are counted on your assessments on Canvas. Okay, last thing I want to do real quick is just say a few things. First of all, I've enjoyed my time with you during this semester. I know it's been a different semester. It's been a rough semester for probably all of us, and I commend you for sticking through it. Just a few things, because this is going to be the last time we meet as a group. We'll still do the final exam thing, but ops is everywhere. So hope is not a plan, but hopefully you've gotten that out of this class, particularly through the Way of the Warrior project. And once you kind of get that, then it's just a question of, holy cow, what don't I pay attention to? Whether you're in the Starbucks drive-through line, or whether you're in the cafeteria, or whether you're somewhere else, ops is everywhere. There's capacity involved. There's other processes. You can see them. And so I think the main thing is out of this course is, take away what means something to you, because you can get mileage out of that. Make the knowledge your own. And all of you did that with the Way of the Warrior project. I would encourage you to continue to do that. More importantly, you are the future. Make no mistake. And therefore, the future is very bright. All of you are extremely bright, are extremely gifted, and you are going to take this world to where it needs to go, probably sooner than later. These are unprecedented times, and I don't mean to sound alarmist. I actually mean to sound very empowering, that at least me personally, we are counting on you to take those mad skills and do something with them to lead our world through this crisis that we're in and that we're going to continue to be in. Arguably, the world will never be the same, and we will need you and all those mad skills to take us to that brighter place. And personally, I am looking forward to that because I know what you can do. And it's all about those mad skills, man. It's all about those mad skills. You all have got them. Use them. Don't abuse them, but and have fun with them, please. In the short term, I know you're like, this all sounds great, but I got like 5 finals in the queue that I got to fight my way through. You can do it. I believe in you. Stay in the fight. Believe in yourself. Rock out next week. And then let me know how I can help. All right. You're probably going, oh, I know how you can help. Don't give us a final exam. Well, I'm not going to do that. But there might be other ways I can help. And I'm talking about beyond this course. Okay. It's important to me about the final exam. That is important to me because it's important to all of us. But I'm really talking about beyond this course. If there's a way I can help you in the future, big or small, send up the signal. Let me know. Okay. And I would like to do that. And with that, as always, I will stay on the call until you clear. I wish you the very best. If I don't talk to you, then rock on with your bad stuff. Thank you.
Thanks for the semester.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Professor.
Thank you.
Bet.
Bye.
You
Thanks,
bet.
man.
Take care. We'll see you
Have a
on the
good one.
street.